Greetings and salutations. Thank you for lending an ear to The Voice of the Times. It's Tuesday, October 20, 2020. For today's editorial, the U.S. paper's war versus the Great Barrington Declaration is to their own discredit. On October 9, the Manila Times published an editorial entitled IATF Should Read and Heed Message of Great Barrington Declaration. We thought it important to highlight the well-considered counsel of three respected medical scientists, one each from Oxford, Harvard, and Stanford, on what they consider the most sensible way to manage the coronavirus pandemic. The three advocated an approach to COVID-19 called focused protection, based on statistical levels of risk as opposed to blanket lockdowns. Upon issuing their declaration on October 4, they were joined as co-signatories by thousands of doctors, scientists, and concerned citizens from around the world, thereby turning their proposal into a global movement, warning of grave concerns over COVID-19 lockdown policies. In that light, we decided to reprint the full text of the declaration on this page. You would think that most of the world's media would treat the declaration in the same spirit and give it well-deserved publicity. It has not happened that way, however. Some media organizations, notably the New York Times and the Washington Post in the US, ran stories about the declaration which sought to depict it as some kind of Trump scandal. Mainstream media turned the declaration into another issue in the US election campaign and thrashed its ideas. White House embraces a declaration from scientists that opposes lockdowns and relies on herd immunity, headlined the New York Times, which tried to produce its own set of experts in an attempt to debunk it. Proposal to hasten herd immunity to the coronavirus grabs White House attention, but appalls top scientists, claimed the Washington Post, which identified the Great Barrington scientists not as top, but merely maverick scientists. This is profoundly shocking to us. Why would these well-known media organizations be extremely eager to trash this expert scientific opinion, which brings good news in protecting the most vulnerable to the disease without wrecking the economy? Why support continued lockdowns as the preferred anti-COVID policy? The only reason we can see is that the New York Times and the Washington Post, like most of U.S. mainstream media, have bought into the Democrats' campaign in the U.S. presidential election that fears any solution to the pandemic as beneficial to Donald Trump, and has proclaimed an economic shutdown as its central policy against the pandemic. The Democrat candidate, Joe Biden, has pledged to impose a national economic shutdown if he wins on November 3. The Democrats fear the return of the very strong Trump economy with no lockdowns in force, and that U.S. voters will forget that Trump is responsible for America's 200,000 COVID-19 deaths. We maintain that the debate over lockdowns and medical science must be resolved scientifically by actual testing and outcomes in the fight against the virus. The World Health Organization, or WHO, now counsels world leaders to avoid using lockdowns as their main strategy to control COVID-19. On the internet, it is nearly impossible these days to find a single article or paper that advocates an economic lockdown as a policy. The fearmongers have rapidly lost their audience. We Filipinos, of course, are not participants in the U.S. presidential election, but as a serious media organization, the Times sees it also as its duty to call out journalism that will not scruple to provide the facts and tell the truth about the science in the middle of a health emergency in order that voters can decide for themselves. We in the Philippines must surely decide also for ourselves. If, as has been reported even by the New York Times, Trump's Operation Warp Speed can bring an end to the pandemic within the year, we will gladly rejoice with him. And that's the editorial for Tuesday, October 20, 2020. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print, subscribe to our digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Listen to The Voice of the Times.